All right, everybody, good morning, good afternoon. Now, what happened at the U.S. Capitol yesterday was an insurrection against the United States incited by President Trump. The president promoted conspiracy theories that motivated these thugs. He exhorted them to come to our nation's capital. He told them to march down Pennsylvania Avenue. And he said, "You will never take back our country with weakness." President Trump's lies fed the crowd. He directed their anger at Capitol Hill, and his demagoguery whipped them into a frenzy. Let me be clear. These were rioters, insurrectionists, goons, thugs, domestic terrorists. They, of course, bear responsibility for the mayhem yesterday. They should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law, and if this administration won't, I'm confident the next administration will. No leniency for these people. They have the cameras all over, they have their pictures. No matter what part of the country they came from, we ought to go after them right now. Whoops. Right. Stuck. All right. But make no mistake about it. The reprehensible acts yesterday were incited by the President of the United States. Yesterday's events would not have happened without him. If there were no President Trump, this would not have happened, plain and simple. The fish stinks from the head, plain and simple. And so I believe the president is dangerous and should not hold office one day longer. He may have only 13 days left as president, but yesterday demonstrated that each and every one of those days is a threat to democracy so long as he is in power. The quickest and most effective way to remove this president from office would be for the vice president to immediately invoke the 25th Amendment. The vice president can invoke the 25th Amendment today, and if the cabinet votes, he's gone. They should do it now. If the vice president and the cabinet refuse to stand up, Congress should reconvene to impeach the president. Plain and simple. We don't need a lengthy debate. The president's abuse of power, his incitement of a mob against the duly elected representative body of the United States is a manifestly impeachable offense. If there ever was an impeachable offense, what the president did was it. And if you don't think he won't spend his days out of office promoting conspiracies, stoking grievances, and doing more of the same, you're kidding yourselves. If you think he won't promote the idea of him running again 4 years from now to motivate his supporters, you're kidding yourselves. And in impeachment, there's a charge that allows the Congress to say he can never run for office again. That should be invoked as well. So if the vice president will not, so if the vice president and the cabinet won't invoke the 25th Congress, Congress should come back in session immediately and impeach the president. Get him out of office. Now, and Speaker Pelosi and I tried to call the vice president this morning to tell him to do this. They kept us on hold for 25 minutes and then said the vice president wouldn't come on the phone. So we are making this call public because he should do it and do it right away. Now, before I open it up to questions, I want to just convey to people how seriously we have to treat this subject. I was talking to a friend on the phone this morning, and this friend told me that his parents, when they were talking about what happened, just shrugged their shoulders. We cannot shrug our shoulders at something as serious as this. We cannot say this was a one-time incident and it will go away. My fellow Americans, we cannot treat our democracy like this is something we cannot treat our democracy like this is something out of our control. If we just shrug our shoulders about violence and mayhem, if we shrug our shoulders about dangerous conspiracies and misinformation, the president, another president, or even this president, if he tried again, could do the same. Our democracy is at risk. If we shrug our shoulders when actions like this occur, mark my words, the days of our democracy are numbered. We have to fight this with all we can. And I'd like to make one other point on a related subject. It was a... That's not the whole statement.
That's all it is, yeah.
Okay. It was appalling how ill-prepared the Congress was for these attacks, which were known about in advance. I will dismiss the Sergeant at Arms the day I become Majority Leader, January 21st, if McConnell, who appointed him, doesn't get rid of him sooner. He must go. He did a terrible, terrible job. The men and women of the Capitol Hill Police, they're fine people, but they had no leadership, no preparation. Everyone knew this would happen. The Sergeant at Arms has been derelict in his duty. He doesn't deserve to be in office. Again, he was appointed by Mitch McConnell because McConnell is Majority Leader. If McConnell doesn't get rid of him, I will the first day that I become Majority Leader, January 21st. Questions, we're only taking questions on these two subjects, okay? Yes.
Yes, Senator Schumer, you talked about the Sergeant at Arms removing him. That's just one person, of course. It's clear you have concerns about security in the Capitol, how easily it was breached. What have you been able to learn and understand about why the National Guard wasn't called out sooner, why there weren't enough Capitol Police?
Well, let me just say this.
And whether any Capitol Police helped any of the protests?
Well, I don't know. We need a full investigation of everything that has happened. The dereliction of the Sergeant at Arms, the lack of security preparation, and if any Capitol Hill Police shirked their duties. We will get that when I become Majority Leader if it's not done sooner. And I can tell you this, that this was a frightening experience. At one point, I was only 30 feet away from some protesters who were down the hall. And to have what happened should never, ever happen again. Furthermore, and this was bipartisan, Speaker Pelosi, Leader McConnell, Leader McCarthy and I got on the phone with the Secretary of Defense. We got on the phone with the Attorney General. We were on the phone with the Secretary of the Army and many other officials and pushed them to get more police there quickly. At the early moments, there were not enough forces there. And the question is, why weren't they there in advance? And then why didn't they get there ASAP? All of that needs a looking into. Well, Speaker Pelosi and the House initiated. A large number of her members have called for it, and we can do, and you know, I leave it to them to do it ASAP. Then, once it comes over from the House, it has preference on the Senate floor.
What can be done in the meantime to keep the president in check for these next 13 days?
Well, what can be done in the meantime? The best thing to do is get rid of him. I don't trust him one bit. Impeach. If the 25th Amendment isn't invoked, the next best thing is impeachment ASAP. If people, I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, from the Northeast, South, or West. If what happened yesterday doesn't convince you that the president should be out of office now, then something is very wrong with your beliefs about democracy. We'll see what happens, okay? We got good support yesterday on the floor of the Senate, and hopefully they're thinking about it now.
Does the FBI have a website up yet? You might have asked that.
That's not the press.
Blown up pictures of all the guys. And they can
Look, I spoke to the Attorney General yesterday. First, I want to tell Acting Attorney General Rosen. And I asked him to get the president to issue a statement that the protesters, who are not protesters, the thugs and goons, should leave the Hill. I said, will you ask the president to do it? He didn't say yes. That appalled me. And so Pelosi and I issued a statement, and then the president issued his statement. But his statement was not a good statement. It was not somebody who saw the danger, and that's typical of Trump. Well, let me leave the rest up to the press. Are you?
Blown up photos of everybody in there.
Look, I'm going to leave it to law enforcement as the best way to prosecute. But every one of them, let me finish. Every one of them should be prosecuted with no leniency, plain and simple.
How concerned are you about security around the inauguration? Are you certain that lessons have been learned and something like this won't happen again, not just then, but between now and then?
I know that they are taking very serious measures with the inauguration, and I do know that there's not going to be a lot of crowds near the inauguration. But they better look at what happened yesterday and look at the inauguration with give it a double, triple, quadruple look. That'll be up to the legal authorities. I have to look at the legal authorities. Well, look, we all know throughout America that racism is endemic, and so I tend to agree with Joe Biden's statement. Okay, in general.
Sarah?
Mayor Bowser has said that there will be a review within Washington, D.C. law enforcement. Do you have a message for her and for the city authorities that might be looking into how this happened?
Well, we talked to Mayor Bowser on the phone, and she was ready to send the D.C. National Guard in quickly, and it took the DOD too much time before they got there.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
The speaker did just say that she would be moving forward on impeachment.
Good.
On the 25th.
Well, I support Speaker Pelosi's move to do impeachment, and should the House impeach, I will do everything I can to get the Senate to move as quickly as possible. Thank you, everybody.